So let's try to use these two rules. These are just shortcuts. I don't want to have to write out everything. I don't want to have to expand it all the time. I want to just be able to use this rule where it says, okay, here's a bunch of stuff being multiplied, the multiplication rule. I just have to add the powers together. Shortcut. Boom. Done. Here's the power rule. I've got a bunch of stuff raised to a power. Everything inside the parentheses gets the power. If I've got one power to another power, I multiply the powers. That's the power rule. Boom, done. I don't have to write everything out. I can just kind of like use these rules to simplify them, to simplify these expressions. So here's some practice. I want to try it out. I know I'm calling it practice, but I'm going to do it. But I want you to think about it. What rule am I going to use here? And what does that rule say? Take a look up here. Am I going to use the multiplication rule or the power rule? Yeah, I'm going to use the multiplication rule, which means that maybe the name is not so good, but think about we have to add these powers together. You can always write it, expand it out if you need to, but all we have to do here is add the powers. It's a shortcut. I don't have to write it all out. I can just say, oh, this is going to be, whoops, this is going to be the base of 2 to the 4 plus 6 power. I guess I should have stuck with my colors there. Four plus 6. So that's going to be 2 to the power of, what's 4 plus 6? 10. 2 to the power of 10. Same thing over here. I'm going to add the powers. The base is going to be x, because they're all x's. There's 3 and 5 more and 9 more. So I'm just going to add those powers. To the power of 3 plus 5 plus 9. If I wrote it all out, I would just end up counting up how many there were, and I'd add it all up, and I would get 3 plus 5 is 8, plus 9 is 17. So this is x to the power of 17. Okay, what about this one? This is a different rule, right? This is our power rule. And what do we say when we've got a power to another power? We multiply the powers. So, shortcut way to do this, instead of writing it all out, is it's going to be 2, that's my base, to the power of 4 times 3. So what's that? 2 to the power of 4 times 3 is 12. I hope this kind of makes some sense here. Here's another one. That's a power raised to another power. What do we do when we've got a power raised to another power? We multiply the powers again. So, shortcut, this is going to be x, that's our base, to the power of 3 times 5. Which is what? That's the same as x to the power of 15. So this is kind of simple, right? I hope so. Here's where we're getting a little trickier. So now here's the power rule again, but remember part of the power rule says everything inside the parentheses gets that power. I often call this the Oprah rule. I like calling it the Oprah rule. If you've ever seen the clip where you probably never seen it because it's a long time ago, but on the Oprah show, the Oprah Winfrey show, she had an episode where she was giving away cars, and she was like, "Look, everyone, look under your seats, and there's one of you is going to get the keys to a brand new car." And everyone looks under their seats and like going crazy. Like, so the first person finds the key and like, oh my God, I won. And then another person finds a key and another person finds a key. And then they all realize that everyone is getting a car. And she was running around. She's like, you get a car and you get a car and you get a car. That's what that's what I always think of when this happens, because what this means, what part of this power rule is that everything inside here gets the power. You get a power and you get a power and you get a power. The 2 is going to get a power of 4, this power right here, and the x is also going to get the power of 4. And that's the power rule, or the Oprah rule. What about here? Same thing. 3 is going to get the power of 3, and then x to the 2 is going to get the power of 3. So we're going to end up with 3 to the power of 3, right? Because 3 gets the power of 3, times x to the power to a power. What do we do with the powers? Same thing over here. We multiply them. So to the 2 times 3 when this gets a power. So we've got 3 to the 3 times x to the what? X to the 6th. Okay. And then there's some trickier problems down here. Let's do a few more. Maybe I'll do this one, and then I'll do one of these down here, and then I'll leave these two to you for you to think about. In keeping this video short. All right, so what's going to happen here? Well, there's a lot of stuff in these parentheses, right? What's in here? There's a 3, there's an x, and there's a y to the 2, right? And each of them, like the Oprah, or they're going to the Oprah show, each of them is going to get a power of 4. So the 3 is going to get a power of 4, the x is going to get a power of 4, and then the y to the 2 is going to get a power of 4 as well. And what happens when we have a power raised to another power? The power, they multiply. So we're going to get y to the 8. 2 times 4 is 8. And these we can just leave the way they are. This was 3 to the power of 4 and x to the power of 4. How about this one down here? What makes this a little bit stranger? What do you think? Yeah, there's a negative power, right? That's kind of weird. Don't worry about that. We'll get to that next week. But there's 3 things in here again. There's a 6, there's an a to the minus 3 power, and there's a b to the 5 power. Okay, so same thing though. They're all getting a power of 7. That's outside the parentheses. So 6 is going to get a power of 7. This is going to get a power of 7. And this is going to get a power of 7. And every time we have a power raised to another power, we multiply the powers. So this is going to end up being negative 3 times 7. 5 times 7 is going to be the power here. Power over here is just 7. So this, we're going to get 6 to the power of 7 times a to the power of negative 3 times 7 times b to the power of 5 times 7. And what do we get there? So 6 to the power of 7 is going to stay the same. Let me write my bases first. 6a and b are the bases. And we've got power of 7. We've got negative 3 times 7. That's negative 21. And what's 5 times 7? 35. That would be our final answer. Okay, so go back up here and take a look at, I'll post these notes again. Take a look, because all I'm trying to get you to realizes that these are two powers, two rules, two properties um, that we can use to simplify exponents. And I'm going to give you some practice um, in IXL, kind of doing these, making sure that you checking if you kind of get this. This is going to be on the multiplication rule. This is going to be on the power rule. So for example, if we f to the 8 times f to the 4, what does that become? F to the 8 plus 4. Add the powers. In this one, power to another power, we multiply the powers. All right, that's it. Have a good time. See you next week, and enjoy your week.